it handicaps you, it hamstrings. I mean, and when the public finds this out, they're like, how could that even be possible?
Is that illegal? It feels like the state is circumventing, and I believe in state rights and everything. I understand some of the issue here, but like in this case, the state is purposely circumventing federal agencies' ability to do their job that they quite literally have jurisdiction over. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong at all. Julian, you hit it, bro, straight up on the head. That's exactly what happened. And it was because the depth of the cartel involvement in California was being underplayed. One, because legitimate cannabis was supposed to take that problem away, and this looked really bad for legal cannabis. And the other thing was, just like what we did on our southern border in this last administration, why did we flood it with tens, if not many, many more millions of illegal nationals coming up across the border, with a percentage of which are cartel operatives, or they're in grows, or they're doing trafficking, or they're doing fentanyl? Why would anybody logically allow that at an administration level? People say it was to ensure votes, for this next election. That was certainly a discussion. But what is the rational reason for that? And there's many different, answers and many different kind of factions to that. But when we were told that was something that came from the top, not even from our agency, from above our agency. And it actually wasn't something we were supposed to do in policy. Because my question to the administrator that told me that, and my captain at the time said, I can't believe I got to tell you this, but that guy you guys just got in that gunfight with that survived, that was coming down on you with firearms on that grow raid, and a canine and one of my officers highlighted in this book that, made a really good counter move as we shifted in that little battle. So we weren't hurt. She said, you can't talk to ICE. That guy is... He's if he gets out of the hospital, he's not going to be handed over. We're not going to have anything to do with it. I'm like, okay.
Wait, you're not going to hand over the bad guy to ICE?
We're not going to do it. It's not.
You're just going to let him walk.
It's not our job. He's going to get a ticket. He's going to get a court date, and he's going to show up or he's not going to show up.
But what if ICE shows up and they're there and the guys?
They're going to grab him.
All right.
Good. Yeah. If ICE happens to be there, God willing, then good. They're going to handle their thing. They're going to deport. They're going to do what they're going to do.
How often did you break this rule?
Did I personally?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't break it. But what I can tell you
is... Where you just, slid over the notes and said, oh, look what I left there. It would be a shame if someone picked that up.
Yeah. What I can tell you is there were a lot of really dedicated ICE agents that were environmentally motivated and wanting to kind of, draft what we were doing. And they stayed in the area. And they were always on board, many times studying the same groups we were. So it didn't fall through the cracks.
Wink.
Wink.
Many
of these guys made it. We didn't have communication. Nobody wanted to lose their jobs or be disciplined. Obviously, it's one of those things, though, that this stuff it's not hidden what we do. We put out press releases, data gets generated on who's in custody, and it goes from there.
It basically makes your job, though, unnecessarily harder.
Well, it handicaps you, it hamstrings. Yes. And when the public finds this out, they're like, how could that even be possible with the damage this guy was doing environmentally and what that grow is doing? And on top of it, that particular grow site was in Santa Cruz County, just over from the Santa Clara County side, and a third of that 10,000 plant grow complex was on a children's science camp property. So these kids were going up in the summer learning to archery hunt, learning to wildlife ID, learning to track, learning vegetation, getting those skills, those confidence builders, to learn the outdoors, kind of like Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts. And by the good graces, they had never had interaction with when this grow was going down. And then the other thing about this grow that made it so heinous is we had an inordinate level of preparation from these cartel grow sites on that side of Santa Cruz County.
What do you mean?
Mindset, very aggressive,
okay,
very fortified, some tactical awareness of where to set up their grows, where to set up their camps, blockades where they could set up an overwatch position with weapons, big weapons like AK-47, shotguns, 45 pistols, guys that were wanting to fight. We called the area Asshole Alley. Because every time we went in there for 4 years, Julian, in a stretch, if we weren't taking guns off guys and not having to shoot, or our canines were making really good apprehensions, we were getting into, fisticuffs with guys that weren't giving up. It was a jungle. It was the Wild West out there. And I just knew it's going to escalate. And the reason that area got so aggressive is these cartel groups got really, really confident because after we regulated with Prop 64 in 2016, they go, oh yeah, there's very few agencies that are actually going to work this now. Santa Cruz PD, the sheriffs, different groups, they're going to go to the mom and pop, check for the 6 plants. They're going to go to do dispensary inspections now because that's the focus. And they're like, hey, it's a misdemeanor now. We know how aggressive those things are. We've helped you guys out. You know, we've seen guns, we've seen the toxics, we've heard about the gunfights you guys are getting in quite too often. It's not worth it for us. It's not the risk. Go do it. So that day that gunfight happened, and I go into the book in specifics, we got no help from anybody. It was a fish and game marijuana enforcement team led mission. My buddies from Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office that I worked with in the early days to even get into, you know, their help to make our own team. Great team, very aggressive. They got a real good canine kind of after our canines showed what they could do. I borrowed them and their dog and 2 of our canines. So we had 3 canines. I said, bring the pack, man. It's going to be a Wild West ride today. I had that 6th sense that when we were going into that mission, we were going to do everything we could not to have a gunfight, but it was going to get Western.
I love how there's like 6 federal agencies right there, and they're like, best we can do is a sheriff and 2 dogs.
Yeah,
like,
but you know what?
That's crazy.
And that was a sheriff's department from out of their jurisdiction. And I don't know if I was a local sheriff, I'd be like, that's embarrassing, man.
Yeah.
We're not going to help our game wardens, but these guys are, they're going to borrow, you know, really wired right sheriffs over on the Silicon Valley side.
I mean, good on them to help.
No, it was fantastic. They were brothers. We've been in a lot of scraps together. In 2005, when I had only worked with them a couple of times, and it was myself as a new lieutenant, 2 young wardens with me, 3 officers from the sheriff's office, brothers for life, all special forces, snipers, the whole 9. And then we got ambushed during a raid, August 5th, 2005. They were in full harvest. There were a couple of, you know, heavily armed cartel gunmen, at least a couple, that were there defending the grow from anybody that comes into it. And my partner warden, just a year out of the academy, AK-47 round goes off as we're sneaking through the grow, enters his left leg and tumbles like a military steel core AK round does, just tumbled through his inner left thigh and then tumbled right through his right leg. So he's bleeding out of 4 big holes. I'm returning fire. 2 other sheriff's deputies are now engaging a guy that's got a sawed-off shotgun pointed at me through the brush that I don't see, and another young warden that's next to me on his first grow raid. And if those brothers had not engaged this cartel suspect, this gunman, I'm not here to talk. If they had been a second too late, I would have never made it out of the woods, and probably another warden wouldn't have made it out of the woods. It was that crazy. 1 bad guy shot, 3 of us returned fire, and the domino effect in that 8 to 15-second gunfight, we were really lucky. And by the good graces, Mojo, as he's call signed in my books, survived that after your recovery. But we waited almost 3 hours for an air rescue to get him off that damn mountain, bro, while he's bleeding out. And we learned that day, and I didn't know it overtly, but you know, when you just kind of subconsciously, I knew it intuitively. I said, okay.
Watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.